So let's play over and under for a quick second. So Crocs makes more than 30 million shoes a year. True or false? True. Makes more than 40 million pairs of shoes a year. True. Crocs actually makes 60 million pairs of shoes a year and is the 8th largest footwear manufacturer in the world. No one in Colorado knows this, which is why I don't live in Boulder. I live in Denver, so I don't have to deal with that when the stock goes up or down. If you build 60 million pairs of shoes and you've invented this whole molding technology, which Crocs invented this molding technology, other people like Nike are going to come in right behind it. And a lot of the flip-flops and a lot of the footwear products that you do see today that are molded, Adidas and Nike build similar kinds of products with technology that they couldn't. Croc or not? Crocs golf shoes. We started this 3 years ago with Hank Haney, who was Tiger Woods' golf coach for a number of years. All the good things that ever happened to Tiger, Hank did, according to Hank. At least that's the part I listened to when he's telling me this over dinner for about the 10th time. This is our third-year generation perimeter spiking on the shoes, very comfortable to wear. Croc or not? Boy, you guys will be doing terrible. This is a women's line of flats that we started a year ago, which is a very casual upper on that molded bottom. Croc or not? See? Nope, it's Tom's. Tom's has to figure out what they're going to do for women because everybody's worn that espadrille that says, I care, and if you wear this shoe, you don't care, right? So how are you going to continue to wear Tom's and kind of support what he does? And it's a great brand. But when you change the direction so much, it's hard to do that. Croc or not? This is what will come out in the fall of 14. This is what we call Crocs Cow. So it is actually made with material feels just like, if we blindfold you, feels just like leather, is not leather at all. And so how do you think about sustainability? How do you think about the environment? As a Boulder-based company, there's a lot of people that think about how we are an environmentally friendly company. We just issued our second sustainability report, which is all about innovation, how you continue to innovate as a company. So this will come out in the fall. Very similar to a Sperry-type boating shoe, but the material is all our own material. Crocs or not? No. Croc or not? Third generation women's A-Lee boot that will come out for fall. Croc or not? So this is new for spring, summer this year, the actual sole flexes. So if I could, I didn't bring one, or Patrick didn't bring one, the base of this actually has a wire that runs through it, and you can twist the sole. Super comfortable. What's the biggest thing we complain about, or what do footwear companies are concerned about? It's fit. If you buy shoes, what do you return them for? Fit. The upper stretches and the base stretches. So if you're a 10.5 and you buy the shoe and you're a little bit wide or you're a little bit longer than a 10.5, you don't really have much of a problem. And we test these. I'm a 10.5, I wear a 9, and I can wear it because the base stretches and the upper material stretches. I tell you this because as companies go, there's always a struggle. And for us, the question was, are you a product company? Are you a marketing company? Or are you a supply chain type of company? What is it that you as an innovator, as an entrepreneur want to be? And a lot of times we got kind of pushed aside in the early days and said, well, you know, they make this rubber clog, and they're kind of a supply chain company. They're more focused on how they deliver products. To go from zero to building 45 million pairs of shoes in the first 3 years cost me a lot of hair, and what's left is gray. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to ramp up something that quickly. And this kind of addresses that issue, and it also allows us as a company to just use innovation from a product standpoint to define who we are. Now, how do we get our consumers to catch up with us? Because is there anything there that you would buy? Do you feel like there's something up there that you've seen that you would potentially purchase? Okay, so we started this off by saying not very many of you had Crocs. How do we get you to convert to buying Crocs. Because once you wear them, and I wore some nice shoes this morning. I went to a different meeting this morning. I had to wear regular shoes. Wow, it's painful. You know, once you wear Crocs shoes for a while, super lightweight, super comfortable to wear. So our mission statement really is focused on bringing profound comfort, fun, color, and innovation to the world's feet. You can't believe how much arguing went on to get to this point. I once made the mistake of saying, I don't really believe in mission statements because no one ever remembers it, and that started an even bigger fight. So I've never forgotten this one over time. We do think it is about comfort and fun, and you see everybody pitches comfort today from a footwear standpoint. But we think we own color and innovation, and I think what you can see in the products that I showed you, innovation is really key. And when you look at this, how does innovation affect your company, or how do you think about innovation? We never stop thinking about it. Whether it's your experience on our website, we're constantly playing with how do we interface with you, and do you like it, and what kind of feedback do you give us? We use 4C. We get about 45,000 inputs every quarter from customers that either bought our products online or in our stores that gave us feedback, and we take it seriously, because we think that either validates what we're innovating or that tells us that's not really the right solution to the problem. So I'm going to cover a few things with you tonight. I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I'm going to show you how we think about product timeline from the early days when I first joined in 2004. And we had 9 products. When we went public in February of 2006, we were and still are the largest IPO in the footwear category in the history of the NASDAQ. Hard to believe. Bigger than 9 West. Who was the biggest one before us? 9 West. And so this was a pretty big success story. In Boulder, 87 millionaires were created that day. If you put $25,000 into Crocs in 2002, 3, or 4, it was worth $1 million that 3 or 4 years later. So as innovators, you're starting this company, you're probably starting off with better ideas than a rubber clog, right? In 17 beautiful colors, too. And that's kind of what it started with. So I just share with you a little bit on our product strategy and the DNA of that. And then I'm going to talk to you about some things that are important to me and the things that when I moved back from Singapore in 2010, I lived in Singapore the second time with my family from 2000 to 2010. And I came back, I inherited what I would consider a mess. This was a company that had gone through the ups and the downs of the stock market. When we went public, in 18 months we went from 21 to $150. If you bought it along that way and sold it, talk to me afterwards. If you had anything to do with the next 12 months where it went from $150 to $1.60, I don't want to talk to you. I've already heard it all. And so in that, one of the things that we learned is how to survive. That was a near-death experience for the company. We ran out of cash. We almost put this thing nose down. And today, the company is almost $1.3 billion in sales. And so how do we change that? And it all starts with, I think, we're going to talk a little bit about 5 Ps and 3 Cs, which are all things that I worked hard at over the last 4 years before I retired 8 days ago. So I am very happy. Thank you. Thanks. That's why I'm so well rested and easy tonight. You know, I don't have the stress of a day job today. Okay. So this is what innovation might look like in your company. It's maybe a different type of roadmap, but when we first look back at 2002 to 2004, when we went public, we had 25 styles of shoes, and that year we did a little over $300 million. All in a matter of 2002 to 2006. And from that, you think about what the DNA of your company is. And this is something that's really easy to get away from. What is the DNA of what you're developing? What is the DNA of your brand, of what you're thinking? And we argued a lot about whether the company could ever evolve. Is there a pointer on here? Yeah, so we talk about this stage right here. This is all molded product. There's a little bit of fuzz in a product that we brought out in 2006, 2007. But what happens is we said the DNA of the product is really what I said before. It was fun, it was colorful, it was lightweight. was super comfortable. So how do we add that fourth word? How do we add innovation and then be able to start to build many different other styles of products? Today we offer over 400 different styles of products throughout the course of a year. And you can find almost anything on here, from women's flats to casual kind of ankle boots to wedges and heels. Yes, we even did a heel back in the early days. We actually did a heel back in 2007 that proved to us that we could extend the brand, but that the DNA would carry us to that point. This is, if you had our chief product officer here, this is something that we talk a lot about and he thinks about, is across this spectrum, we're certainly, whoops, sorry, wow. That'll teach me to hit the wrong button. So it said that we would start with this core product. Are you tired yet? I'm going back and forth. And how do you extend out on that? We're not really a stylish company, obviously. We're much more casual. We need to think about winter. We're not active. We're not going to compete with Nike or Adidas. We're not a performance brand. So how do you think about products on a spectrum? How do you think about your products or your services on a spectrum? And who do you compete with? What's your competitive advantage? And we always looked at the material in the shoe. I did it again. As far as how we think products start to grow and look. And so you get into sneakers. So we did sneakers in 2007 and a new one now in 2012. Flats we brought in. If women in the room know Melissa, it's a Brazilian brand, uses a specific kind of material to it. We kind of took that down and said, well, we're going to do the same kind of things with our products. We're going to put a different upper on it. Makes it look a little bit more stylish. It wasn't way up there on the stylish curve, but it gives us a little bit more fashionable kind of product, even down into how we would build a simple boot that would compete with maybe a North Face, but more lightweight and a cheaper price. And then you go even further out. This has been a fabulous selling product for us. Super lightweight, fuzzy. You don't normally think that you would find this from Crocs. You wouldn't go into a Crocs store in Park Meadows or Flatirons and walk in and expect to see that kind of product from us, and even that kind of welly women's rain boot. So how do you inch your way out? How do you get small successes? Not every product up there is a home run. Not every product up there we're going to sell 1 million pairs. But for a product company like us, we have 28 different styles today that have sold more than 1 million pairs, and we've been around about 7 years. That's pretty successful for a footwear brand. And even you see this new kind of Huarache kind of flip that we brought out 2 years ago. So this is kind of how we think about a roadmap. This is how we think about driving the business, that you always have to think about where your customers are going, not only where they've been, but where they're going, and where you can then provide some type of competitive product. And you kind of get an idea. We think that good design is as little design as possible. Steve Jobs is somebody who played with the design of the iPhone many times before it came out. In fact, that first design, if you remember, kind of had that rounded edge. It was because he didn't like the feeling, that original feeling, how it was squared out. And he played with it, he played with it, he played with it. Not people in the design lab, Steve Jobs did, until he got it right, until he got it to the point where he said, I think this is what's going to be the best product possible. If you look at it, the design is so simple. Those original iPhones are so simple. I was working in high tech at the time. We were building 90 million cell phones for other people. And I remember some of the Motorola design engineers said, that iPhone, it's a toy. It's not a real phone. We're a phone company. He's kind of a struggling PC company. What does he know about phones? Well, last 10 years, what's happened to Motorola? Got sold twice. They're not even in the phone business anymore. And who's the dominant player in the world? Innovation is something that starts with you. If you're a business owner or you're an entrepreneur, it has to come from you. And you can't let other people deter you from saying, no, that's not going to sell. I looked at those original clogs, which we have sold over 100 million pairs of those ugly clogs. And our first ad campaign was "Ugly Can Be Beautiful," and you played off of that whole theme. There is a place out there Sometimes you're the one that has to have that vision. And those two guys from Fairview High School and one other guy, they had that belief. They were out with bags those first 2 years selling these clogs out of bags at trade shows, at events. And then a guy from Arkansas who has a place in Aspen saw him one day and said, I think these are great shoes. And he drove all the way back down from Aspen, found 8 people sitting in Boulder in a small room. And he said, hi, I'm Alex Dillard. Maybe you might know, my family runs a department store chain, and I'd like to carry your shoes in my store. And those guys didn't know what to do. And Alex Dillard, we always called kind of the godfather of Crocs, because once he put them in the stores, Macy's had to have them, Nordstrom had to have them. And that little innovation, that little product that no one else was building at the time, then took off. So these are some of the kind of concepts that we think about when we design products, we develop products. I'm going to shift to the last two things, which is what I think is really important, which is product, price, place, promotion, and people. But I'm not going to go through all those. I'm going to tell you what I think is the most important thing, and that is that do you start a company on a strategy, or do you start it with a culture? And I think a lot of times people say, well, you start with strategy. When in fact, if you look at Spielberg and when they all started, DreamWorks, they said the three of us want to work together. What do we want to do? What do we want to do? And they started with this idea. They were going to create some kind of culture that was then going to spawn movies. That's where they started in the process. When I came back, I inherited a company that I think had a lot of great people, and you have to have great people in your company. We ask our executives to read 2 books, one of which is Good to Great, and the other one is Speed of Trust, because the other thing that drove this business to go from 0 to $850 million in a matter of 3 years at Crocs was trust, and the trust within the people in the organization. But what was lacking, why that kind of went up and then imploded and came all the way back down to $640 million 2 years later and almost went bankrupt, was there was no culture. And so I think of this, and we're going to talk about culture in a second, I think that you have to have culture first. And then, of all those things that are on there, you can solve the first 4, but you got to have great people. And you as a leader have to be committed to what you're doing. As people in a business, it all starts with us. And that's kind of my story, is after 9.5 years, I don't think I have it in me anymore to go in and work like that hard, running a global business. 70% of our revenue in Crocs comes outside the United States. So a $1.3 billion company, you have $900 million worth of revenue outside of the United States. We built a global business in a very short period of time. And it takes people that are able to do that. Then the rest of those things just seem to kind of all work together. So let me kind of finish with you with what I think is really important. So many years ago, 28 years ago, I met my wife, and I had gone through kind of a rough divorce. I was married young, 22, 23 years of age, got divorced, and during that process, what I learned, I'd gone to a Catholic school in Montana, Carroll College, and a priest that was there had kind of done marital counseling with us. Started with, can you sit down as a couple, can you sit down as a company, and can you write down these 3 things? Can you write down what you believe in? Creed, code, and culture. Can you write down, can you say, what do we believe in? And so when I came back to Crocs, kind of saw this mess. I had worked with these people from afar. I was the COO living in Singapore. I said, we're going to do this. We're going to apply something that I learned in my own personal life. We're going to apply this to this business. And so they thought I was screwing around. It was 7 o'clock at night. We were in Boulder. We brought in some pizzas and some beer and wine. I said, we're not leaving until you guys do this. And so we had global executives in, and we went through and we tried to do this. And it took them till about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Then they realized, we're not going home. I'm serious until we kind of get this right. And so as business owners, as business operators, what do you believe in? Personally, what do you believe in? And, I think that you have to believe in your customers. I think you have to believe in your consumers. In today's market, 55% of our revenue comes from selling it to department stores or sporting goods stores. But 45% of Crocs revenue today comes from either the internet, about 11% of our revenue, $140 million comes across the internet, connecting with you, knowing what your buying patterns are, knowing when you buy on sale, knowing that you haven't bought for a while, knowing that you bought them for your children. How do we get you as moms to then buy them? All that retail analytics is so important, and 35% of our business is in our own stores. We have 700 stores of our own, but with partners, we have 1,300 stores with partners plus 700 of our own. We have 2,000 stores globally that you can walk into that say Crocs on the outside. And to do that, you have to be passionate about your brand and delighting your customers. Your customers have to feel good about your products. We had a program at one point that if you bought a pair of Crocs that didn't fit, you had to send a picture in to our e-commerce staff, and they would decide whether you were qualified to get a free pair back or not. That's not treating or delighting your customers. Send the shoes back and we'll give you your money back. You have to think about what your values are in your business. Creating a fun environment that fosters innovation. People in Boulder, younger people. You look at our workforce, a lot of people under the age of 35 in our business. And how do you create innovation? How do you create a fun environment where people are stimulated and feel like they're contributing? And lastly, building respect in each other's trust and supporting the communities. We've done a lot over time. Crocs Care is a program that we've run for, 6, 7 years now. We've given away 3.8 million pairs of shoes globally. So we do care and we do give back and we do support the communities. It's not Tom's, that's their marketing, that's their company, that's what he believes in. That's not really our marketing, but we still have those same values and we believe in giving back. Code. These are not, I didn't write this. Our executive sat down and wrote this. The only one I wrote in here was the don't play politics because I never did it well in my career. And I said, there's no value for it in a business. And so these are the rules that we live by. So creed, what do we believe in? Code, what are the rules that we're going to live by? What are the rules that we have in the business and how you think about the way that you operate your business? And, there's a lot of different inputs from various people and a lot of wordsmithing on this over the last couple of years. Set the bar high, strive for excellence, and reward performance. People like to be rewarded. People like to be called out and made feel good. And I wish in the first 2 rows tonight I could have called somebody out and made them feel good, but it was not to be. But next time. Whoops, I turned it off. And then our culture. So creed, code, and culture, our 3 C's. And the culture that you have, love your customers, respect personal lives. It's really hard in today's world. Everybody works hard. Everybody's connected. We've got iPads, iPhones, Samsung phones. You're constantly connected. How do you put it all down and create that right work-life balance? We do a program in Crocs called 980. Which we kick off. We do it for 6 months out of the year. That means you get to work your 80 hours in 9 days. And you get every other Friday or every other Monday off. And when we announced that it was back on again, one of our employees is here, people were crazy. They love it. You work really hard. You need that time to regenerate your batteries too in the process. And nothing's better than that, although the weather's been kind of crappy the last week or so. We had really like spring early this year. Remember last year how bad it was all the way through May. You have to have that in your culture. Win, celebrate, and improve. Not repeat, but improve. And so we've played with different wording on here. And probably the last one, I think, is that you have to be, whatever you're doing, you have to be a company or your industry kind of zealot. And we have to be brand zealots. You have to wear your shoes. You have to be proud of it. And sometimes people would think it was goofy. We go to New York and visit investors, and we'd have Crocs on with our suits. But you have to believe it. You have to be a brand zealot. And whatever you're doing, be proud of it. So thanks for having me tonight. Just a quick note, you never know how life is going to turn out. So here it is, 20 years ago, Cindy Skurjanik and I worked together in a high-tech company. And then all of a sudden, here it is, 19 and a half years later, all of a sudden I get a LinkedIn request. Cindy says, "Hey, do you remember me?" And Cindy was the head of our marketing group there where I worked, and it was nice to reconnect with Cindy. So this also kind of brought us back together too. So Oliver, I'll turn that back to you.